Let's jump right in. Today, we're unpacking one of the most misunderstood and, honestly, gripping mysteries of early modern Europe. For centuries, the European witch hunts have completely captured our dark imagination, right? They're usually painted in these broad strokes as a simple, coordinated attack on women. But, as you know, historical reality is rarely that simple. So we're reopening this historical cold case to figure out what actually fueled the fires of the witch trials. We really have to start this investigation with a staggering statistic, one that immediately sets the stakes for us. 80% of those accused and prosecuted for witchcraft in early modern Europe were women. I mean, that is a massive, undeniable demographic skew. And when you pair that gender disparity with the chilling fact that an estimated 45,000 people were executed across the continent, well, we're forced to ask a critical question. Why were women targeted at such a wildly disproportionate rate? Was this, a deliberate, systematic attempt by a patriarchal society to just oppress women? To help us solve this, we're exploring a brilliant academic analysis by Morgan L. Stringer from the University of Mississippi. Her research rigorously challenges that popular modern assumption, the idea that the witch hunts were simply a coordinated war on women. Stringer argues that, yes, extreme misogyny absolutely existed, but reducing the trials to a mere gender war, it ignores the complex, frankly terrifying reality of early modern religious beliefs and the actual demographic mechanics at play.
Part 1. The Prime Suspect, the Malleus Maleficum.
Let's talk about the book's primary author, Heinrich Kramer, because his sheer brutal misogyny is just astounding. He actually argued that the Latin word for woman, femina, derived from fe, meaning faith, and minus, meaning less. Yeah, you heard that right. He literally defined women as having less faith, and he presented witchcraft as an inherently female crime driven by their supposedly weak, superstitious nature. Kramer was basically obsessively terrified that female witches were out to destroy patriarchal authority through sexual deviance. His treatise is just filled with these terrifying claims. He said midwives devoured unbaptized babies, that insatiable lust drove diabolical pacts, and, get this, that witches possessed the magic to cause permanent impotence in men. So this leads us to a pivotal turning point in our case. If Kramer literally wrote the book on witchcraft, did his intense hatred accurately reflect the standard European consensus on the matter, or was he actually a radical extremist, even by the standards of the 1400s? Well, the crucial point here is that Kramer wasn't exactly embraced by his peers. Even his own contemporaries, like Bishop Golzer of Innsbruck, found his obsession with female sexuality completely out of line. I mean, when Kramer tried to prosecute a local woman by relentlessly interrogating her about her sexual history, the bishop actually halted the trial and threw Kramer out of the region entirely.
Part 2. Cross-examination, comparing demonological texts.
When we cross-examine other texts from the era, the contrast is stark. While Kramer blamed exclusive female lust for diabolical pacts, an earlier text from 1437, the Erroris Gaziarium, argued something completely different. It claimed both men and women engaged equally in diabolical promiscuity. The authors stressed that Satan tempted people of both sexes, which completely undermines Kramer's gender-exclusive obsession. Actually, let's go back even further to an influential 1376 Inquisitor's manual. Inquisitor Emmerich claimed witches actually practiced severe chastity to mock Catholic nuns. Think about that for a second. This completely dismantles Kramer's narrative of rampant sexual wantonness. Emmerich saw the witch not as some lustful seductress, but rather as a twisted, dark mirror of a devoted nun. To further complicate our prime suspect's theory, we really have to look at geography. In regions like Iceland and Finland, magic was culturally viewed as a predominantly male trade. And the historical records? They show that in these areas, the vast majority of executed witches were actually men. So if this was a coordinated, continent-wide war on women, well, somebody forgot to tell Northern Europe.
Part 3. A War on Women.
Look, while severe misogyny clearly existed, there's no denying that, framing this solely as a top-down gender war ignores a vast amount of evidence. It ignores the 20% of male victims. That's thousands of men who died. It ignores the well-documented fact that women actively and sometimes eagerly accused their own neighbors. And perhaps most importantly, it dismisses the genuine, terrifying reality of early modern religious panic. These people truly deeply believed that servants of the devil were living right next door to them.
Part 4. The Real Historical Causes.
So if it wasn't a coordinated war on women, what actually stacked the lethal odds against them? First off, society sharply divided magic by gender. Men supposedly practiced higher, learned magic, like necromancy using textbooks, where they appeared to be commanding the devil. Women, on the flip side, practiced lower, healing magic using spoken spells. Authorities viewed this lower magic as far more diabolical. Why? Because it implied the practitioner had willingly surrendered and enslaved herself to the devil just to gain those powers. And this division of magic feeds directly into a massive demographic tragedy. Women were the primary caretakers in an era of inexplicably high infant mortality. When a sudden, unexplainable sickness or death struck a child, terrified parents desperately sought an explanation. Tragically, because women, like midwives and healers, were physically the closest to the tragedy, their God-given societal roles mathematically made them the absolute easiest scapegoats.
Ultimately, accused witches were hunted not simply for defying men, but because their magic was viewed as a terrifying heresy designed to overthrow the entirety of Christian civilization. The authorities genuinely believed witches participated in twisted inversions of the Catholic Mass, cannibalized infants to steal their souls, and served as frontline soldiers for the devil. They weren't just hunting women, they believed they were hunting the apocalyptic enemies of God.
So, the witch hunts weren't just a fabricated gender war. They were a catastrophic collision of religious terror, profound grief over unexplainable tragedies, and fatal demographics that just happened to leave female caretakers directly in the crosshairs. As we wrap up this explainer, consider how those societal fears operated back then, and ask yourself, when unimaginable tragedy strikes today, and our human instincts demand an explanation, who are the vulnerable scapegoats that our modern society mathematically targets? It's definitely something to think about. Thanks for joining me on this deep dive.